Welcome back to JK Out of the Closet. Today we have Ryan, and he's remembering America's Best Dance Crew. Not So You Think You Can Dance. Different thing.
Different show.
ABDC.
Yeah. That's, I think, like, if people were to assume, like, what's a life-changing thing, that's probably on the list, like, first.
ABDC?
As you guys know, like, I have more of a team player personality. I don't really like doing things by myself, and I don't really like being the guy. So if I get to be, like, part of a thing, I like that much better. I prefer that. So to do ABDC, it meant more to me than So You Think You Can Dance, because because ABDC was made of a real, like, group of friends that we had, like, started this thing, and ABDC occurred after we had started, so it was like a thing where we didn't know that was in the cards. But by the time that show came around, what happened is a producer on there was actually a few years before was a producer on So You Think You Can Dance. Same guy. No, it wasn't Randy Jackson. It was a guy named Dan Sachs. Dan Sachs called me, and he knows that, like, I'm in the same crew as Dietrich and Hawk, and he's like, he calls me and he's like, hey, I think we have the perfect show that is, like, right up your guys' alley.
Wow.
And this was, me and Dietrich talked about it on the overtime, but it was season 1 of America's Best Dance Crew. So we weren't on season 1, we were on season 3. But we tried out for the first season, but we couldn't do it because So You Think You Can Dance has a non-compete.
But that worked in favor for you guys, right?
It worked in favor. We made it work in favor because it was really rough to miss out on the first season, because when we saw what it became, it was like FOMO, like crazy to be like, damn,
to be like the first season.
Because we had to wait until 3rd season, so we had to watch 2 whole seasons of the show.
Who won the first season?
Jabba.
And the second season?
Super Crew.
Oh, okay.
But alternate
Jabba
universe,
Wacky's
though, alternate universe, what if it was Quest Crew that won season 1 and you guys had a Vegas show that's still running today, like the
I don't
Jabbas?
think we could have never done a Vegas show either way, because we did have talks about, I think every crew that won ABDC got in a room with someone about a Vegas show. We would be the worst people for a Vegas show, because we can't. We have no alternates. Like it makes sense if you have a mask brand, then you don't have to do that show every time. But for us and the stuff we do, like, what am I gonna do? Jump on my head every fucking, like, I would die eventually. Like, it's too taxing.
Every time you do that, do you forget a little bit more about Final Fantasy?
I remember a little bit more about it. Yeah.
It's reality.
So I think ABDC was like, that was a bigger change in my life than So You Think, because of the fact that I was much more prouder exponentially of ABDC than I was So You Think You Can Dance. So You Think You Can Dance was like,
you like the crew element.
Yeah, because that's just, I love that more. Like, I would rather win with you guys than, like, win by myself, because to me, I don't like being that center of attention like that. I remember we had this moment on there when me and Dietrich were, like, chilling underneath the seats where everyone's, like, sitting and yelling just to, like, hear what they're saying and shit. And, like, people started chanting Quest Crew, and I was like, you know, we could have named ourselves the Buttfuck Team, and they would be chanting that shit right now. And we were just like, it just tripped us out, like, to just hear it at that level. But for ABDC, so we get that call, and it sounded perfect. We missed first season, second one rolled around. By the third one, we were overly prepared. We had made a giant book of, like, all of the sequences that we could possibly do depending on what challenge we get.
Wow.
So if the show was gonna go, and
So you guys were studying the show.
studying the shit out of it. Like, probably, like, I'm confident in saying I don't think any other team got to prepare as much as we did.
Wow.
Because we had made it once already, couldn't do it, so we already kind of knew the schematic, and then we watched 2 whole seasons of other people. Like, that's almost unfair in a way, like, if you're watching it that closely.
Yeah.
And
Do
then
you think it was unfair?
I think they would have deserved to win anyway.
Oh, class.
But the wrench that got thrown in the whole thing is that, so we went in pretty confident. Once we knew, we're like, okay, the contracts are up, we're gonna try out again. We called Dan Sachs, told him, like, hey, we can do it this time. Everything's, like, ready to go. And then we find out that one of the other teams is a team called Beat Freaks, which is the equivalent of, like, seeing, you know, like, let's say that you're, like, a working dancer, you go to auditions. They're the ones on the other side of the table. They're the ones that are running the audition. They're the ones you're gonna work for.
Oh.
Sounds
So
good.
now you gotta like compete against them, and it's
All
like,
chicks.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's the top women of the dance industry, basically.
Yeah.
Wow,
They were
shit.
booking everything. They were dancing for like Gwen Stefani. They were hiring choreographing people. They were
People on the Velvet Rope tour like this.
Yeah.
They're people that were working when you didn't even know you could dance as a job. Like they're so fucking seasoned. It's insane. So
and hot.
yeah.
Really?
Fucking fine.
Pull them up, dude.
I'm gonna
Don't do that, dude. No.
Couple to me is all.
What are they called?
Victoria's Secret Angels. So we end up having to
Look it up.
compete against them, and I think like that was the one thing that would have like completely nullified all of our
All your preparation, yeah.
because they're so good. And they're like not good in the way
Oh.
that we're like.
And notice that season 1 and season 2 are 2 all-male groups that won. So from a producer's point of view too, it would have been really nice for TV to see women like win this one too.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
also still an all-guy, predominantly breaking crew.
Yeah.
And season 2 is an all-guy b-boy crew as well that won. So it felt like a couple chips might have been stacked against them in that like particular equation.
But it wasn't lesbian woke era yet, so they wouldn't have won.
And it's the fact that that they don't need extra help to win. You know what I mean? Like, whereas nowadays you might go, obviously they won because they're women. Yeah, there's no DEI necessary for them.
Like they are the
They
pro-
can-
yeah, they're
They
good.
can smoke us fair and square.
I see.
And that's the thing that like we always have to like say like, dude, yeah, they really can't just beat us. You're just looking at them.
They look like a fucking improv team. But they're gonna be hot as fuck.
An improv team.
Look, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they're like the superstars basically.
But they look like just an improv team from Bell Gardens.
There's more flattering versions.
Okay.
The so by the time we're on this show, it's like we're probably one of the only teams, I think if not the only team, that's made up of, we had the most people with TV experience. So even for Beat Freaks, their industry experience is like crazy. TV identity-wise, people don't really know them like that. So I think they still looked at us like we had an advantage because we have that brand recognition of like, wow, I've seen these guys at different times and now they're all together. So it was like we had that going for us. And then we went through the whole season. It was really fucking difficult the whole way, especially with the games that they kind of play where I still don't think shows like this are rigged, half because they're not allowed to be in some aspect. They have something called standards and practices, which is a governing body over anything that's competition on TV that makes sure that there's a fairness involved. And besides that, it also has a clause in every contract that I've ever seen for like TV shows where it says at any point the executive producer can supersede anything that's happened and can just declare someone the winner.
Yeah.
They could just say this guy won. Do they usually do that? Not really, because the votes are like a survey. And if you can survey your target audience and you just see who they want to win. So it's very like seldom that they'll want to go against that.
J-Lo might do it, but
Yeah, J-Lo might. But for this, what they would do instead, which is I still think this is way more effective of a tactic, is they try to plant in your heads that you and someone else are neck and neck. So they would do that to us with Beat Freaks every single day. They would be like, ooh, we just came from the girls' room and they're making something pretty good, so you might want to like change that, make that better. So they would go to their room and say the same thing. So then
Right.
it would push a rivalry, and by the end of the season, you would have both done your absolute AAA game.
Wow.
And that's what happened. Basically, we reached the end of the season, and the only reason that we did eventually overtake them, in my opinion, is because of our book. In our book, we had a series of things that were surefire. This is unbeatable. We have to wait until the end of the season to use this, though, because if we use it early, it's going to be nothing but like downhill. So what
It's like a
happened
Super
is,
Bowl winning play.
yeah, basically, yeah. So then in that book was literally the idea of doing a piano piece where like I play piano and Dietrich's head spin on it, like really specific shit that ended up happening. But if we get into a desperation situation where they put us in danger and they're like, you guys are about to be kicked off, you have to do
Then you
it,
blow your load.
then we would have to do those things. So
Also, you'll never use it.
yeah, just to stay on, we would have to like do it. That luckily never happened to us, and we got to do our exact plan from the book like all the way to the end. So when you see that final week where we did that piano piece and the decathlon,
Today's video is brought to you by Rocket Money.
Have you guys ever heard of the phrase, it's not how much money you make, but how much you save? And how much you save depends on how much you spend. And if you're like me, you spend a lot of money on a bunch of dumb things. I own a gym, and I had 2 gym memberships that I was consistently paying for 2 years. I don't know why. It ended up to a couple $100 each, so it added up to $1,000 right then and there. Wow. And then I have a couple of filters that I downloaded to use for photos that I just needed to use once, and then I am paying like $5 a month every single month for a whole year. So recently I am cleaning all of that up, and that is what Rocket Money is designed to do, to help you save and cancel subscriptions.
Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's features. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/off-the-record. That's rocketmoney.com/off-the-record. rocketmoney.com/off-the-record.
all of the content of those shows, we knew from the start that we would eventually have to do that, and it was the exact time that we did it. For them, I don't really know how they planned their stuff, but with how we analyzed them, they blew their load early. We thought.
They did their like best show too soon.
Because we knew what we thought were their best shit, and they did it early. And ours were correlated again, like I was saying, to the challenges. If they're like, oh, you're gonna dance to this girly piece, then we were like, okay, good, we have some shit that we can do with that. Or if you have to like look like you're working out, you have to look like you're cooking. Like just had weird scenarios that were like, okay, this is for that, that's for this. And then afterwards was kind of the same. You know how you guys went on TikTok tour and shit like that? That's kind of almost every ABDC winner's experience afterwards is like instant, I guess, like, yeah, stardom in a way.
Yeah, super stardom.
And then you go on tour, do shows.
Just do a ton of shows. Yeah. So right after ABDC, we had done literally like a year of a straight year of just shows all the time.
Yeah, our land is Pittsburgh.
Aloha.
Okay, what was it like working with Quest Crew from America's Best Dance Crew because they're friends with ours?
Oh man, they was the best, man. They was very, three-dimensional with the stuff they was doing as far as dancing. They was very delightful to work with. I'm happy to work with them.
I don't know how many, like, hundreds of shows we did, but the part that's most life-changing in this was, like, honestly, the feeling of having to navigate a real business in a way. Because Quest is not a good business, and never was, because we're basically fucking communist in the way that, like, we want everyone to receive the same thing from everything.
How big is your crew?
At its most active, for the people that were touring, there's like 8 to 10 people. And seven key would be the thing.
How did you guys structure it? Like, when you mean communist, everyone just votes equally? It's an equal 8 shares?
There was no leader, and no matter what happens, whatever money comes in gets split exactly.
Whoa!
Even if there's one that did more work and one guy was a slacker, they would just...
Like, think of it this way. Like, I had done the music for Quest Crew since the beginning. I never got a single extra thing for that. Yeah. Like, and everyone was just expected to do a little extra and not expect anything.
So there's no incentive for you to, like, go do the extra thing. Go the extra mile.
It was the feeling of, like, at least everybody's happy and we're not fighting.
And there's an incentive early game when you don't have any other extra variables like a mortgage or children or like a wife at home. No then if anything, what you see is somebody else pulling extra weight, so you feel compelled to not slack off.
Exactly.
There's an idealism to it.
That's a culture. That's a culture.
That's the thing where it's like, if I'm gonna do this extra thing for nothing, then you should do this extra thing for nothing. And we kind of consciously made that decision of like, all right, this probably isn't gonna be the best business, but at the end of this, we'll still be friends at least. And so, if you compare Quest and Kinjaz, it's like exactly, I think like Kinjaz is obviously the business version of like how to do that right. And then we're like our shelf life is not gonna be long. And when opportunities come that take you away from it, obviously we're gonna be like, go do it, and go do it, go do it, and it's just gonna be fucking done. But it's something we're very aware of. The thing that really changed everything was me kicking out Dietrich from the crew. I think that's the...
Why'd you boot him?
After about a year and a half or so of like touring...
if there's no leader, how can you kick someone out?
Because I've made everybody vote.
Oh,
it's true communism, dude. We got a dictator.
Really though, Ryan's kind of the leader.
right?
So there's like a situation
He's
where...
anyone who's spearheading anything is a leader.
There was a situation
sure.
where we had made these rules for ourselves of like, okay, guys, like we just booked a big international tour. These are all shows out of the country. You cannot just do something else and pull out because the contract states that the entire crew must be present at all of these shows. So what happened is Dietrich's got this awesome opportunity, amazing opportunity to come back to So You Think You Can Dance. They started this new formula where they're like, hey, we want to be a little more like Dancing with the Stars, where new contestants will partner up with classic ones. So they offered Dietrich's the opportunity to be one of the classic all-star cast. So like you had like Twitch, you know, like all these people that were like big names from the past come back. Really, really good opportunity and very well paid. He got that opportunity in the middle of us finishing our schedule for like Philippines, Australia, like all these like big countries. And then he's like, he met with me one night and was like, hey, like, what do you think I should do? And then I was like, I honestly don't know, man, because like it just so happens that at the same time, like, Steve Tirada had all these movies he could have done for stunts, but he chose not to. Like, people had said no to like really big things in order to do this string of shows, and I was like, I don't know, I don't think it's fair. But to be honest, we should have just told him do it, and we'll figure it out. So
Why do you say that?
Because we made an emotional decision, and I think I was a big part of
Were you jelly?
orchestrating that. I wasn't jealous. I was just upset that he had made other people say no to things, and then when he got there, he was like, well, I'm gonna go do this, you know?
Yep.
But then, like, I think, like, the sad part is, in the truth, he would have turned it down if I had been like, don't do this to us. He would have. He's fucking crazy like that. I should have been like, do what you have to do and we'll like recover and it's fine. But instead, my response was, what the fuck are you thinking? Like, and then I think like Dietrich was a different guy back then. He was very like, he liked to like push your buttons. Like, he liked to like make you mad for fun. And so like so many different times people had like come to me and complained like, dude, did you need to tell Dietrich to stop fucking doing this shit? And like, I was always being the guy in the middle. And then
The leader.
yeah, and then
Chairman.
Chairman May.
and him like getting that opportunity and like wanting to do it was sort of the last straw for me. So then we had a meeting and I told everybody like, hey, like this is what's happening, and obviously it was the right thing for him to take it, but we made it feel like it was the wrong thing. And then I told him like, that's it. We can't fuck with you no more because of this. Because also my fucking weird master plan, which doesn't make sense, at least at the time it felt like it did, was that if the contract states that the whole crew must be present, then, oh, well, Dietrich isn't in the crew, so the whole crew is present. That way we don't breach every single one of these shows.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
First, I was like, this is a little bit of a whack
still
explanation.
go on tour? And then they were fine with it.
We didn't lose any of those things.
Yeah.
Obviously, they were mad that like a fucking person wasn't there that obviously a lot of people are there to see.
Yeah.
Because people fucking love him, and he's such a centerpiece. And then he's not there, so the only thing that would make that passable was to be like, well, he's not in the crew.
Yeah.
But it's so fucking overboard. Like, it doesn't need to happen, and that was like a big thing. That
And you could have lied.
we could have done a ton of different things, but I chose the worst one. So I just looked at that as like a big, like it's like, yeah, it's a big, it was a big learning experience because like I lost a really good friend that was like, we didn't speak for a really long time. And it wasn't until like, I want to say like maybe like a year or two, he like called me randomly. Like I'm not talking to this guy. Like he called me and he's just like, hey man, I know we don't talk. I know we're not friends, but like I just want to let you know like I fell in love with somebody, man, and I needed to share it someone really close to me that knows how hard it is for me to love. Wow. And I was like, fuck, bro. Yeah. And we were just like, I miss you, man. Because like we were like the single guys together during Quest, and so like we both knew each other's like, I guess like hindrances with like sharing and feeling and shit. And then we became friends again, and then it wasn't until World of Dance 2014 came around, and this is probably one of our most like viewed videos. The reason why that show was specific or special was that I was like, hey, you want to do like one more Quest show and then just fucking be done? And he's like, yeah, let's fucking do it. So that's what that show is it's supposed to be our last show, and it was supposed to be our last show with Dietrich's in it, and we all came back together, and then we're like, peace. But it ended up being so good, we ended up doing fucking years more of shows.
So it was like a kickoff of like, the band's back in town.
Yeah, it was like that kind of thing.
We're dance nerds, and I know they exist. Were they like, holy shit, this is like the Beatles getting back together?
Yeah, it really was, because if you think about it, like Dietrich's not being in the crew also helped him excel in YouTube.
Okay.
And like one thing that we talked about in overtime was like, I think that was the best case scenario, because like with him forced to like leave this whole like thing that was so special to him and took up so much time, he was able to like nurture his whole fucking with YTF, with Ryan Higa, like that took first place in his life, and I can't imagine that he would have excelled that fast.
Got it.
He still represented Quest at that time too. I had no idea he got kicked out.
Yeah, and a lot of people really didn't.
Yeah,
it was kind of like
every time they announced him, they were like Dietrich's from the Quest crew, all this stuff.
And you can't really stop announcers from like saying that, and we didn't care either. We're like, yeah, you know, if people say that, they say that, but we didn't want him to like, I guess like remove that legally, because we're not even a fucking company that like that. Right. But yeah, it was a thing where it ended up working out for everyone in the end. But that learning experience of like, hey, when some things are just worth figuring out. Like it doesn't have to be, we made these rules for ourselves and we have to adhere to them. Yeah. It's like, no, you fucking don't. You made the rule.
You're in charge.
Yeah, it's like,
from your guys' personal experience, I'm sure there was like a lot of like learning or regret or missed time and stuff like that from a dance nerd / fan that's like, you know, not as like, you just get to witness. It's like drama compels you. It's just a crazier story. It's like, damn, fool got kicked out. Then you go to World of Dance, and it's like, holy shit, and you guys reveal him. You know, it's not like it's not like, hey guys, we're performing one last time with Dietrich. It's like the show's just happening, and then out of nowhere, there's like this moonwalk line where he comes back out. And you're like, what the fuck? Dietrich is on stage.
He pops out in the middle of it, and then like he solos to like me and his favorite song. That like we used to always like,
What's the favorite song?
It was like an old.
Was it like Macklemore?
No, it's this
that was the last one.
It's this old Gwen McCrae song from like the 80s or 70s, and it goes like, my feelings for you will always be real. Yeah. And that was like our shit that we would always like say, and then it was very symbolic and gay, but yeah, that changed my life to see the result of a bad decision. And I think I'm just lucky that it didn't lead to like completely negative. Like there was both sides end up doing good shit, thankfully, but it's like you get to see like, because you're fucking alive so long, you get to see like the bad decisions you made really like pan out, and then you also get to learn like why they were so unnecessary, like super unnecessary.
How long did it take you to do your hair in this era?
It took me like an hour, dude. No lie. It took me like I had to wake up an extra hour earlier to do that shit. Wow. Yeah.
Wasn't Dietrich also a judge on that one MTV show?
Yeah, so Dom ended up going back to judge ABDC and So You Think You Dance. Wow. Right. He ended up a judge on both of those shows, yeah.
Now, let's check in with a key member of Quest crew when they became Season 3 champs.
You guys are my biggest inspirations in dance when it comes to my life. I love you guys, I miss you guys, and congratulations on everything. I can't wait to see the future for Quest crew.
Thank you, D.
Later, which is like the craziest, mind-blowing thing. Yeah.
Well, another crazy, mind-blowing thing happened. You got a first injury, which ended up changing the trajectory of your dance career. We're going to talk about that next time. Yeah. Please click on our ads. Thank you so much.
And Asian guys are just unholdable on the dance floor.